Hello, and welcome to the Murder House Radio Show. I'm your host, X. On this show, we will be covering serial killers, mass shooters, disappearances, true crime, and the most deplorable things in people, in history, and all that good dark stuff. The Murder House Radio Show will be a radio show / podcast. I'll be uploading videos every Friday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification and select all to get all notifications if you are viewing on YouTube. And hit the follow button if you are listening on a podcasting platform. So sit down, get comfortable, grab some coffee or whatever your preferred beverage is, turn off the lights, and enjoy the show. Today's episode will be on Herman Webster Mudgett, aka H.H. Holmes. I'll refer to him as H.H. Holmes. He was born May 16th, 1861, and died May 7th, 1896, my bad. But yo, I'd be mad as hell. Like 9 days shy of your birthday, bro. I'd be mad. But he was better known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, aka the abbreviation H.H. Holmes. But yeah, before we get too deep into this, once again, I got the information off Wikipedia. The link will be in the description below. I won't be reading directly off this for the whole thing, so if I leave stuff out, drop it in the comments or go click the link and see for yourself so I don't get copyrighted. But let's continue. H.H. Holmes was an American serial killer in the 1800s. He confessed to 27 murders after the Pitzel trial. Pitzel, Pitzezel trial, awaiting execution. Holmes was convicted and sentenced to death for only one of the murders he confessed to. Also charged was his accomplice and business partner, Benjamin Pitzel. Oh, maybe that's where the trial name came from. It is speculated that he may have killed as many as 200 people. Victims were killed in a mixed-use building which he owned in Chicago. Yes, he had a murder hotel, which is literally like the movie The Collector and The Collection. It's a good movie, by the way. You should check them out. They're on YouTube. Located about 3 miles west of the 1893 World Fair Columbian Exposition, supposedly called the World's Fair Hotel, informally called the Murder Castle, though evidence suggested the hotel portion was never truly open for business. So, I think he would, he named the hotel or whatever, he'd be like, hey, there's a hotel here, and when people would go to stay there, some of them would just, disappear. Besides being a serial killer, Holmes was also a con artist and a trigamist, whatever that means. Hold on, what's that mean? Trigamist. Polygamy is the practice of marrying multiple... Oh, so he's a polygamist. Oh, interesting. The subject of more than 50 lawsuits in Chicago alone. Holy. Holmes was executed on May 7th, 1896, like I said. 9 days before his 35th birthday. See, I'd be mad, bro. I'd be big mad. So there's a little briefing of who this guy is. So let's get into his early life. Holmes was born Herbert Webster Mudgett in Gilmont, New Hampshire, United States, to Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodite Theodate, Page Price, both of whom were descendants from the first English immigrants in the area. Interesting. Mudgett was his parents' third-born child, so he's the third-born, so the youngest-ish, the third youngest. He had an older sister, Ellen, and an older brother, Arthur, a younger brother, Henry, so he was, and a younger sister, Mary. Holmes's father was from a farming family, and at times he worked as a farmer, trader, and house painter. So it seems like he was in a fairly normal, non-criminally related family so far. His parents were devout Methodists, yeah, for sure. Methodists, for those of you who don't know, Methodism is also called Methodist movement, is a group of historically related denominations of Protestant Christianity, which derives their doctrine of practice and belief from the life and teachings of John Wesley, George Whitefield, and John's brother Charles. So there's that, if you didn't know that. And I'm gonna warn you guys now, sometimes I suck at reading, so bear with me with these pronunciations. I try my best. Later attempts to fit Holmes into the patterns seen in modern serial killers have described him torturing animals and suffering from abuse at the hands of a violent father, but contemporary and eyewitness accounts of his childhood do not provide proof of either. So people tried to profile him, saying like, oh, he suffered at the hands of his father, had a messed up childhood, tortured and killed animals, but there's no proof of that, which is interesting. What are some serial killers who haven't had messed up childhoods? Let me know in the comments. But at age 16, Holmes graduated from the Phillips Exterior Academy and took teaching jobs in Gilmont and later in nearby Alton. On the 4th of July, 1878, he married Clara Loving in Alton. Their son, Robert Loving Mudgett, was born on February 3rd, 1880, in Loudon, New Hampshire. As an adult, Robert became a certified public accountant and served as the city manager of Orlando, Florida. Interesting. So Holmes was enrolled in university. He enrolled himself in the University of Vermont in Burlington at the age of 18, but was dissatisfied with the school and left 1 year in. Interesting. I wonder what he studied. In 1882, he entered the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery. That's some Jack the Ripper stuff. I could see Jack the Ripper doing this, because this was the same time as Jack the Ripper 2-ish. And graduated in 1884, so he's a smart dude, too. After passing his exams, of course you have to pass your exams to graduate, I would assume, I would hope. While enrolled, he worked in the anatomy lab so he could practice his skills. Professor Herdman, then the chief of anatomy instructor. Holmes had apprenticed in the New Hampshire under Newman White, a noted advocate of human dissection. Years later, when Holmes was suspected of murder and claimed to be nothing but an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to defraud life insurance companies several times in college. Yeah, there's a few cases like that. We can get into those later if you want. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, this is all kind of pretty normal stuff. Pretty normal so far. Housemates or roommates or whatnot, whatever you would call them, would say Holmes would treat his wife Claire violently and that in 1884, before his graduation, she moved back to New Hampshire, and later wrote she knew little of him afterwards. So she just cut off all contact, so their relationship was toxic. After he moved to Moores Forks, New York, a rumor spread that Holmes had been seen with a little boy who later disappeared. So the rumors started about 1884-ish. Holmes claimed that the boy went back to his home in Massachusetts. No investigation took place, and Holmes quickly left town. That's suspicious. He later traveled to Philadelphia and Pennsylvania and got a job as a keeper at a hospital. But quit after a few days, my bad. See what I mean? I suck at reading sometimes. I get shit mixed up. He later took a position at a drugstore in Philadelphia, but while he was working there, a boy died after taking medication that was purchased at the store. Holmes denied any involvement in the child's death and immediately left the city. That's sketchy, man. Everywhere he goes, people go missing or disappear who have been seen or have had contact with them. That's suspicious. Right before moving to Chicago, he changed his name to Henry Howard Holmes to avoid the possibility of being exposed by victims of his previous scams. Yeah, he had a lot of aliases. Hold on. I'll go find just aliases real quick. So some of his known aliases were Henry Howard Holmes, Henry M. Howard, Henry Gordon, Alexander Bond, O.C. Pratt, D.T. Pratt, A.E. Cook, and G. Howell. Those are just some of his aliases there for you guys. In his confession after his arrest, Holmes claimed he had killed his former medical school classmate, Robert Lee Koch. Koch. I'm kidding, but yeah. In 1886 for insurance money. Oh, yeah, that's not too uncommon either. Lee Koch, however, died in Watford, Ontario, in Canada on October 5th, 1889. So maybe they faked his death. In late 1886, while still married to Clara, Holmes married Myrata Bleaknap. Interesting. Myrata Bleaknap. My pronunciations, guys. So he was a player. I don't know if his spouses felt the same way, but he was a player. They got married in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He filed for divorce from Clara a few weeks after marrying Myrata, alleging infidelity on her part. Damn, I don't think so, man. The claims could not be proven and the suit went nowhere. Surviving paperwork indicated she probably was never even informed of the suit. But yeah, the divorce was never finalized, so they were still technically married. It was dismissed in June 4th, 1891, on the grounds of want of prosecution. Interesting. Holmes had another kid with his new wife, Lucy Theodate Holmes, who was born July 4th, 1889, in Englewood, Chicago, Illinois. As an adult, Lucy became a public school teacher. Holmes lived with Myrata and Lucy in Wilmette, Illinois, and spent most of his time in Chicago tending to business. Yeah, killing. Holmes married Georgina Yoke on January 17th, 1894, in Denver, Colorado, while he was still married to Clara and Myrata. He's a player, boys. He's a player. So, one of Holmes' earliest murders was his mistress. Well, one of them. Julia Smythe. Smythe. She was the wife of Ned Connor, who had moved into Holmes's building and begun working at his pharmacy jewelry counter. Oh, so was he working on the hotel? Or after Connor found out about Smithy's affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smithy and her daughter Pearl behind. Smithy gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. Oh, so he disappeared, air quotes. Julia and Pearl disappeared on Christmas Eve. Oh, it killed them too, 1891, and Holmes later claimed she had died during an abortion. Oof. Though what truly happened to the two never was confirmed. But, yeah. Another likely Holmes paramour. Emmeline Cigarand began working in the building in May 1892 and disappeared that December. Oof. Another woman vanished, Edna Van Tesla. Ooh, Tassel, Tssel, is also believed to have been among Holmes's victims. Holmes's usual murder method was by suffocation. Okay, word. And also other methods were overdose of chloroform, overexposure to lighting gas fumes, trapped in an airless vault, to give some examples. Ooh, word. So he had various methods. He was a true doctor, scientist, sadistic one at that. Holmes also claimed to have used starvation and burning victims alive in his castle. Holy. Straight out of the collector. Well, the collection. So Holmes met his partner, Benjamin Pitzel, while working in the chemical bank building on Dearborn Street. A carpenter with a criminal past who was exhibiting in the same building a coal bin he had invented. Okay. Holmes used Pitzel as his right-hand man for several criminal schemes. A district attorney later described Pitzel as Holmes's tool, his creature. So he may have not had part in the murders, not sure, but his money-making schemes for sure. In early 1893, a one-time actress named Minnie Williams moved to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office, though they were rumored he had also met her in Boston years earlier. Okay. He offered her a job at the hotel as his personal stenographer. Shorthand is an abbreviated symbolic writing method. Oh, okay, so abbreviations, basically, word. And she accepted. She probably disappeared. Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer the deed to her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alex Bond, an alias of Holmes. Oh, yeah, another victim of his fraud, and probably a murder victim. In April 1893, Williams transferred the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. Holmes later signed the deed over to Pitzel, giving him the alias Benton T. Lehman. The next month, Holmes and William, presenting themselves as man and wife, rented the apartment in Chicago Lincoln Park. Minnie's sister Annie came to visit, and in July she wrote to her aunt and she planned to accompany brother Harry to Europe. Neither Minnie nor Annie were ever seen alive after July 5th, 1893. So he used her to get her house, probably sell that or whatever. Then he killed them both, and then the sister or whatever got in their way. Holy, real cold-blooded shit, boys. So it was also thought that he would kill the victims and then sell their cadavers to hospitals and schools and stuff. He'd also sell skeletons using his connections made during his medical schooling. But yeah. He and sometimes a hired assistant were accused of stripping the flesh off the bodies, dissecting them, and preparing the viable skeletons. Yep. The rest of the remains would be tossed in pits of lime or acid, effectively breaking down the remaining evidence. Yeah, it makes pretty good sense. This is, although pretty messed up so far, it's not too messed up because the whole body scam thing's been around forever. People are actually known to go to freshly buried corpses, dig them up, and sell them as cadavers or whatever. But let's get on to the Illinois murder castle. Holmes arrived in Chicago in August 1886. So I skipped this part and got into his first series of murders or whatever. But yeah, that's when he got into Chicago. And this is when he began using the name H.H. Holmes, and that was because he wanted to avoid detection for his frauds, his fraudulentness. He came across Elizabeth F. Holton's drugstore, and I think he bought that, but I think he did it by like a dick move, by like bankrupting them and then buying it. But this was on the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street in Englewood, Chicago. Holton gave Holmes a job, and he proved to be the hardest working employee, eventually buying the store, although several books portrayed Holton's husband as an old man who quickly vanished along with his wife. So he either bought it clean, fair and square, or killed them both. And since he was the best employee, he just kind of bought it and nobody questioned it, maybe. Dr. Holton was a fellow Michigan alumnus, whatever that means, only a few years older than Holmes, and both Holtons remained in Englewood throughout Holmes's life and survived well into the 20th century. It is a myth that they were killed by Holmes. Oh, well, there you go, boys. There you go. I don't know why I say boys so much, but, you know, could put that on a shirt for merch ideas, maybe. Likewise, Holmes did not kill an alleged castle. He did not kill an alleged castle. Victim Miss Kate Durkee, who turned out to be very much alive. Ooh, okay. So he admitted to a bunch of cases, and then there's rumors he killed a lot more people who turned out to be alive. That's what it sounds like. So the murder hotel was located right across the street, literally right across the street from the drugstore where he began building the hotel in 1887. So he bought a vacant lot and started constructing it. It was a 2-story mixed-use building with apartments on the second floor and retail space, including a new drugstore. Oh. A creditor of Holmes named John D. Bruley died of apoplexy on April 17th, 1891, in the drugstore. It is unknown if Holmes was involved with his demise on the first. Interesting stuff. I think Holmes had had a big play in most of the people's deaths that weren't confirmed, because they're all around him, been known to work with him, and they all die suspicious shit. Because, like, I have no clue what half of these things they die were, or are, but they sound suspicious. But when Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, Atina Iron and Steel, they sued in 1888. In 1892, he added a third floor, telling investors and suppliers he intended to use it as a hotel during the upcoming World's Columbian Exposition. Okay? So this is his excuse for building it, though the hotel portion was never completed. I'm pretty sure he would, like, hire crews, they'd finish a certain section, then he would fire them or kill them, and then hire new crews, and then he did this until he got caught. I'm fairly sure that makes sense, because, yeah, to throw off suspicion. But, yeah. In 1892, the hotel was semi-completed. It had a basement and the third story. The first floor was the storefront. The second story consisted of his elaborate torture rooms, which contained a chute that led to the basement, so he dropped the bodies down there. The third floor held more apartment rooms. There were soundproofed rooms and mazes full of hallways, some of which seemed to go nowhere. Many of the rooms were outfitted with chutes that would drop straight down to the basement, where Holmes had acid vats to get rid of the bodies, and quicklime, and a crematorium to dispose of his victims. Makes sense, good planning. It's literally a murder factory. But speaking of murder factories, there's this group called the Zetas. They're a drug cartel. They literally have concentration camps out in the middle of the Mexican desert. They'll take people there, torture them, and kill them for information. And they'll be paid to literally get rid of bodies. Like, semi-trucks full of bodies would be found in the desert, just abandoned or whatever. It's pretty gnarly. But furniture suppliers found Holmes was hiding their materials for which he had never paid, so he's caught stealing in hidden rooms and passages throughout the building. Oh. But the search made the news, and investors of the planned hotel pulled out of the deal when Schuler in the building showed them the articles. Oh, so because of his greasiness, his investors were like, alright, we're just gonna dip out. We don't want no parts of this. And that's why it probably never got finished, and probably for good reason, too. His hotel is still standing. Here's what it says. Those interested in taking a haunted tour of the base of Chicago's most infamous serial killer will be disappointed to learn. Oh, it's not. Never mind. Sorry, I got your hopes up. They'll be disappointed to learn the Holmes Hotel is no longer standing. That's right. The only building that still exists on the land where H.H. Holmes' built his murder dungeon is the Englewood Post Office. Oh, that sucks. They should have left that up. They could have made it into a museum and made millions. In 1894, police inspected the hotel while Holmes was out doing whatever he did. During the inspection, they found rooms with hinged walls and false partitions, rooms linked with secret passageways, and even alt-right rooms that were connected to pipelines filled with gas, which Holmes used as a gas chamber. Holy. Holmes would use chutes to deliver the bodies to the basement, and once there, he made use of surgical tables and airways of medical tools to dissect them before selling their organs and bones on the black market. So he was a hustler serial killer, a financial serial killer, and to medical institutions. Yep. The hotel was gutted by a was gutted by a fire started by an unknown arsonist shortly after Holmes was arrested. It could have been his partner. He could have had someone do it for him for more insurance money. Had to get rid of evidence, makes sense. But was largely rebuilt and used as a post office until 1938. Oh, I see. Interesting. That's where the post office came from. Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, so that basically sums up the murder hotel and his first murders. So, let's get into his capture and arrest. So, the insurance companies pressing to prosecute Holmes for arson makes sense. Holmes left Chicago in July 1894. He reappeared in Fort Worth, where he had inherited property from the Williams sister, located at the intersection of modern-day Commerce Street and 2nd Street. Interesting. In July 1894, he was arrested and briefly jailed for the first time on the charge of selling mortgaged goods. So stolen goods maybe, or damaged goods. I don't know what that means. He was arrested for that in St. Louis, Missouri. He promptly bailed out, but while in jail, he struck up a conversation with a convicted outlaw named Marion Hedgenpeth, who was serving 25 years. Oh, okay. He had conducted a plan to swindle an insurance company out of $10,000. By taking out a policy on himself and faking his death. Yes, my mom was watching a thing on him yesterday and said that they think he may have faked his death because people started dying who were on his jury and helped convict him. And, they put a bag over the head, so they could have had, like, a real good lookalike. Put the bag over the lookalike's head and executed that, and Holmes was out, and they could have bribed them by giving them a cut of the money or whatever, which makes sense, because back then it would be much easier to fake your death. So, Holmes offered/promised Hedgepeth a $500 commission for the name of a lawyer who could be trusted. Holmes was directed to a young St. Louis attorney named Jephthah Howe. Howe was in practice with his older brother, Alphonso Howe, Howe, who had no involvement with Holmes or Pritzl or their fraudulent activities, word. So they never went through with it, maybe, word. Jephthah Howe, however, found Holmes' scheme brilliant nevertheless. Holmes' plan to fake his own death failed when the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. Holmes did not press the claim. Instead, he concocted a similar plan with Pritzl. Okay, word. So he did all of that, tried to fake his own death, but the insurance company wasn't buying it, and it didn't work. So him and his partner tried to do a similar plan. Word. Makes sense. So his partner Pritzl agreed to fake his own death so his wife could claim $10,000 in life insurance money, which she was to split with Holmes and Jephthah Howe. The scheme, which was to take place in Philadelphia, called the Pritzl to set himself up as an inventory under the name B.F. Perry, and then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion. Makes sense. Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Pitts. Instead, Holmes killed his partner by knocking him unconscious with chloroform and setting his body on fire with the use of Benzene. Benzene. Benzene, word. In his confession, Holmes implied his partner was still alive after he used the chloroform prior to being set on fire. However, forensic evidence presented at Holmes' later trial showed chloroform had been administered after his partner's death. Oof. Damn. The fact which the insurance company was unaware of. So the scheme worked, but he still two-timed his partner. Fucking greasy. The presumably to be fake suicide to exonerate Holmes should he be charged with the murder. Interesting. That's greasy. Very fucking greasy. But I guess you could have just like strangled him or whatever. Be careful not to break anything. And then burnt him so he would at least had a better death. That's still wild. Fuck this Holmes guy, man. He fucked over his friend in air quotes. But the idea of faking your death is kind of romantic. I don't think that's the right choice of words. But, like, if you let your real close ones know, like, hey, I'm just going to fake my death, collect this money, and start a new life. I'll stay in touch kind of deal. And they're good at keeping a secret. That's pretty romanticized. That's pretty cool if you think about it. Sorry, I just scratched my nose there. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. The idea of faking your death and just disappearing or whatever. Pretty cool. So Holmes collected the insurance money based off the genuine Pitts corpse, word. Okay. And then Holmes went to his wife and talked her into giving him custody of 3 of her 5 children, Elise, Nellie, and Howard. Holy, the eldest daughter and the baby remained with Miss Pitzel. Holmes and the 3 Pitzel children traveled throughout the northern United States in Pitzel concerning her husband's death. Claiming Pitzel was hiding in London. Okay. So she didn't believe he was dead. That's sad. Fucking dirtbag, man. As well as lying to her about the true whereabouts of her 3 missing children. So he may have killed the children too, damn. In Detroit, just prior to entering Canada, they were only separated by a few blocks. Okay. Interesting stuff here. This guy's still a piece of shit, though. Murdering kids and fucking lying about the fucking death to the wife. That's messed up, man. That's messed up. Damn, and it says here that Holmes was staying in another location with his wife, who was unaware of the affair. Like the whole situation with the kids, the wife, and the fucking faked death. Holmes would later confess to murdering Alice and Neil by forcing them into a large trunk and locking them inside. Oh, that would suck. At least you would die from, like, suffocation, I guess. That's better than starvation. He drilled a hole in the lid of the trunk and put one end of a hose through the hole, attaching the other end to a gas line, and asphyxiated the girls. Well, I mean, that's better than running out of air slowly. It's quicker, but damn, that's still brutal and messed up. Holmes buried their nude bodies in the cellar of his rental house. That was at the 16th Street, Vincent Street in Toronto. Ooh. His home and address no longer existed. Oh, this home and address no longer exist, word. St. Vincent Street have long since been realigned into the part of Bay Street. So it changed from Vincent Street to Bay Street, word. Alright. But, yeah, that's sad. That's fucked up, man. I can't get down with murdering kids, or old people, or women. That's messed up. Unless the women's trying to kill you, then you know. But yeah, that's still messed up. Yeah, I don't think you should be murdering anybody who doesn't have it coming. And when I mean doesn't have it coming, I mean, like, really doesn't have it coming. They really have to have it coming for you to, take him out of the game or whatever. Like, you know. Oh, so I guess the children were reported missing or whatever, and they sent a detective, Frank Geyer, Geyer, a Philadelphia police detective, to investigate Holmes and find the three missing children. He found the decomposing bodies of two of the girls in the cellar of the Toronto home. Detective Geyer wrote, "The deeper we dug, the more horrible an odor became, and when we reached the depth of 3 feet, we discovered what appeared to be the bones of the forearm of a human being." Geyer then went to Indianapolis, where Holmes had rented a cottage. Holmes was reported to have visited a local pharmacy to purchase the drugs which he used to kill young Howard Pitzel, and a repair shop to sharpen the knives he used to chop up the body before he burnt it. Oof. The boy's teeth and bits of bone were discovered in the Holmes chimney. Damn. That's dark, sad, and fucked up right there. He was finally arrested in Boston on November 17th, 1894, after being tracked there from Philadelphia by Pinkertons. Oh. And Pinkertons is founded as the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, so like the FBI-ish before the FBI, maybe. He was held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas, as the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the country in the company of his unsuspecting third wife. Oof. But yes, then they discovered the bodies of the two kids in 1895. The Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes's building in Inglewood, now locally referred to as the Castle. Though many sensationalized claims were made, no evidence was found which could have convicted Holmes in Chicago. How? According to Sessler, stories of torture equipment found in the building are 20th century fiction. Oh. So maybe according to reports, all the stuff that was found, some of it could have been fictionalized for more media coverage. But in October 1895, Holmes was put on trial for the murder of his partner and was found guilty and sentenced to death, the only murder he was convicted of. By then, it was evident that Holmes had also murdered the three missing children of his partner. Following his conviction, Holmes confessed to the 27 murders in Indianapolis and Toronto, though some persons he confessed to murdering were still alive. Oh, okay. In 6 attempted murders, okay, Holmes was paid $7,500 by the Harrison paper to exchange his confession, which was quickly found to be mostly nonsense. So he exaggerated a lot, which lots of serial killers tend to do for attention. Word. He also lied a lot about his life, giving contradicting accounts and statements about his life. And, yeah. And then he wrote his confession in prison. Holmes mentioned how drastically his facial appearance had changed since his imprisonment. He described his new grim appearance as gruesome and taking a satanical cast, and wrote he was now convinced that after everything he had done, he was beginning to resemble the devil, definitely mentally ill. But, and maybe a product of his religious upbringing for that statement right there. But on May 7th, Holmes was allegedly hanged, but he probably was, in the Manistee prison, also known as the Philadelphia County Prison, for the murder of his partner. Word. Until the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and amicable, showing very few signs of fear, anxiety, or depression. Despite this, he asked for his coffin to be contained in the cemetery and buried 10 feet deep, okay? Because he was concerned grave robbers would steal his body and use it for desecration. Ironic. Holmes' neck did not snap. He instead strangled to death slowly. Oof. Twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead 20 minutes after the trap had been sprung. A fitting death, but that would suck. That's how they used to hang people in the Old West, though. And I'm pretty sure that's how the hanging part of a lynching would go down. But upon execution, Holmes's body was interred in an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery, a Catholic cemetery in Philadelphia's western suburb of Yadon, Pennsylvania, on New Year's Eve, 1909. Hedgepeth, who had been pardoned for informing on Holmes, was shot and killed by police officer Edward J. Burke during a holdup at a Chicago saloon. Interesting. They later reported in 1914 that the death of Patrick Quinnell, the former caretaker of the murder hotel or whatever, was going to be remained unexplained because they don't know what happened to him. Quinlan had committed suicide taking Sirachanin. Okay, is a highly toxic, colorless, bitter, crystalline alkaloid used as a prescribed particularly for killing small vertebrates such as which was basically poison. His body was found in his bedroom with a note that read, "I couldn't sleep." That's weird. That don't sound like a suicide to me. But Colin's surviving relatives claimed he had been hunted for several months and was suffering from hallucinations. Haunted for several months and was a word. Alright, word. Yes, as I said. So it says here, in 2017, aimed allegations Holmes had in fact escaped execution. Holmes's body exhumed for testing, led by Janet Mongeau of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. Due to his coffin being contaminated in the cemetery, his body was found not to have been decomposed normally. His clothes were almost perfectly preserved, and his mustache was found to be intact. So he had a good quality coffin that was sealed, so his body could basically mummify almost. The body was positively identified by his teeth as being that of Holmes. Holmes was then reburied, so that lays that to rest. But yeah, interesting. So maybe, as I said earlier, the people who were involved in his death died really shortly after his execution. Maybe he came back as a ghost and killed them, if you believe in that type of stuff. I'm not one to pass up on that kind of stuff. It's possible. The world's a big, wild place, in my opinion. But yeah. Much like other serial killers like Jack the Ripper and Ted Bundy, all the famous ones, Holmes has been sensualized, I guess you could say. There's been a bunch of books and movies and documentaries on him. You can find them by searching up H.H. Holmes, books, movies, and documentaries and stuff like that, and they'll all come up. So, yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments. So that's H.H. Holmes. Thank you for listening to this episode on the Murder House Radio Show. Check out the social medias and the sources in the description. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And once you hit the subscribe button, hit all notifications and select all to get all notifications if you're viewing on YouTube, or hit follow if you're viewing on any other podcasting platforms. See you next episode. This is your host X, signing off.